I think I'm now on a stable line. So I was saying that this particular conversation was prompted by the proposed bill that's seeking to essentially create an association of practitioners within the robotics and artificial intelligence sectors. And we have some key experts on the panel who are going to shed quite a bit of light on what that means, why it's important, why are we doing it now, who else has done it before us, and how we can run. As a means of housekeeping, if we have any questions, you can put them on the chat. On the keynote and mute you did on your Zoom interface, and then we can run it. So without any further ado, allow me to switch off my video so that then we can allow, I think I'm having an issue with bandwidth, but I'd like to then introduce this esteemed panels, starting with Alfred Ongere. And Alfred Ongere has been in the sector for a long time and has been leading capacity development and general ecosystem building, specifically around artificial intelligence in Kenya for over 6 years. He's quite passionate about AI. He's an AI consultant and an ecosystem builder, and he'll tell us what an ecosystem builder does and what an AI consultant does. And he's quite dedicated in unlocking and understanding the capabilities of AI and connecting different stakeholders to ensure its adoption and growth. He also serves as the current managing director and lead consultant at Mind Intelligence Limited. And Mind Intelligence Limited is a consulting and professional services company focused on helping organizations succeed in technology and product innovation with a focus on machine learning and data science. Dr. Paul Ogendi, on the other hand, is a senior lecturer and the coordinator of the Faculty of Law, University of Nairobi in the Kisumu campus. He has extensive research interests, which also include the regulation of artificial intelligence and data protection governance in the country, as well as internationally. And he's currently involved in a few of these projects focusing on these areas, and he'll tell us a little bit more about it. And so just to start off, I would like to invite Alfred to just tell us a little bit more about himself and the work that he's doing, and why this particular bill is, not actually the bill, why the regulation of the sector and the governance structures of the sector are important. Alfred?
Thank you, Liz. I hope everyone can hear me. So yeah, my name is Alfred Ongere. I've been working in the tech sector in Kenya for about eight years now. Primarily, I've been working on AI Kenya, which is an initiative meant to grow the adoption of artificial intelligence. And we do that by, number one, setting up a community, which we did 6 years ago, that brings together different practitioners, hobbyists, or enthusiasts in artificial intelligence. And we provide them a space to discuss the technology, share challenges, and share solutions to the challenges that we're experiencing. The community has been holding different types of technical and non-technical events, which are all free to attend, whether it is a technical workshop training around AI, whether it's a fireside chat with an expert in technology or AI, whether it's a documentary screening where we are discussing the implications of AI by watching a documentary, and then have a panel discussion, and also activities like hackathons. So generally, that's the work that I've been involved in for the past 6 years as a passion project. Primarily, I have a background in telecommunications engineering, and on a day-to-day basis, I work as a consultant helping different organizations build technology products and scale their digital services. So the reason I am here today to discuss this bill is because I have gone through it extensively. There are some parts that aim to promote and grow the ecosystem. However, there are some parts that aim to stifle innovation and particularly don't make sense to us, to those who have been in the industry for the past 6 years, and to those who have a better understanding of how the ecosystem is and what we actually need to grow the ecosystem. So today I'll be sharing some of the different points as to why I am against this bill. And I'm hoping we'll have a constructive discussion. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alfred. And I'm excited to hear what you will have to contribute to the panel. I can see that Fred has joined us. Fred, karibu sana. And Fred is the founder of Robotics Kenya. And I'd like you, Fred, to take a few minutes just to, maybe 1 minute, not a few, take 1 minute to introduce yourself, introduce Robotics Society of Kenya, and tell us the interest of Robotics Society of Kenya in this bill.
Oh, thank you so much, Elizabeth. My name is Fred Sagwe. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Robotics Society of Kenya. I have a background in computer science and education. Currently, I'm a teacher at Murateo High School, Mombasa. So I'm happy. I really could appreciate what Alfred has done on the issue of AI ecosystem in Kenya. And for us, as much we just come in and supporting the industry. We got our registration rate, that is on this year. That's when we got our certificate. So as much we are working, because one of our things is like you look at most tech companies work with sometimes in education. So I don't have much bias on education. So what we thought, like we could introduce something like robotics in school. So we are engaging in that one. We also have a partnership with the Raspberry Pi Foundation to introduce code clubs in schools. And also we are ready to work with that. What we saw is that like what we saw yesterday, I think there's something which has come similar, like the climate convention from 2019. So you saw what happened in the UK yesterday. There's a agreement which 29 countries signed. There's the EU, the USA, China, and those are the leaders in what we are doing. So if you look very well, even the platforms we use, like even the framework, and I can mean like even you look at the digital devices and other things that are working, like if you look at the work which has been done by big companies, big tech companies. Even as Kenyans, as much we say that we are doing the thing local, we are still depending on the Silicon Valley, for example, to work. Even I think overall. So my intention of coming with the bill was to look at the regulation, because by yesterday, if you look at the news, most companies, if you look at those 29 countries, a company like a non-profit like Mozilla and even UNESCO, all of them have come with frameworks. So my intention of sending the bill was actually not even the idea of regulation. My idea was to have a professional body. That was the idea. And the professional body is, for example, lawyers have a professional body, engineers have, doctors have a professional body. So it does not matter where you are. So that was my first intention. But I come to find that even if you come with the professional body, this thing is big. And as much we say that we remain silent, if you look at currently, the Minister of ICT is working, and also the data communication. So the government also is working background, and actually even the stakeholders. I don't know if Alfred has been consulted by the government, so we could be left out. So it's good that we are part of the conversation, the academia, the industry, the government, and everybody. Yeah, I think that let me just put on that. Then we'll come later on the merit and merits of the bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Fred. Dr. Gendi, kindly take about a minute to just introduce yourself, your research, some of the projects you're involved in, and your initial thoughts around the bill.
Yes, first of all, let me congratulate Ruiru University and the University of Nairobi for taking leadership in this particular area. As usual, you know, the law follows events. The sector has been there for many years, but what has been lacking is regulation. So even in countries like US, it has been happening piecemeal, on a piecemeal basis. It's only recently that a directive was signed by President Biden. China, UK, and others are in the process of, actually they have legislation in place, which focuses on other things, specific things. So the approaches may differ. From what I know about this bill, it is an attempt. Its approach is different. It's not focusing on AI specifically, but it's focusing on the practitioners and to organize them and to try and control what they do, so that the sector can be as robust as any other sector. So yeah, it is a form of regulation, but this is not the normal regulation that you and I are aware about, but it is self-regulation, and that is also accepted. And individuals can actually regulate themselves. And there are questions as to whether it could be a legislation, because that is one option. But when you are doing self-regulation, it can also be registered under a different legal framework, companies or societies, and there's frameworks to have this taken on board. So like you heard, my name is Dr. Paul Ogendi. I do research in cutting edge areas, particularly on law, science, and technology. Particularly, I've done some interest on artificial intelligence with Strathmore University and the University of KwaZulu-Natal. I also have a research project on data protection in the area of health, and specifically genomic research or genes. So these are some of the areas that I have been trying to come up with the knowledge, because they are very new. If you look at data protection, it's 2019 and operationalized in 2021. Artificial intelligence, it's only in September, 28th September to be precise, that we had the president directing the ICT ministry to come up with a legislation so that we are able to compete digitally. And so there is an intention to really focus on this area. It is a great privilege for me to be involved in the initial discussions, which is in this particular concrete proposal from Robotics and AI Society. But the main aim is to engage, because it is now time that we now start thinking about regulation. It is a debate that we cannot wait, and therefore I'll be happy to share my ideas.
Thank you very much for that. Perhaps we start with Fred. Given you've given us the background on the thinking around putting the bill together, and I'm sure a lot of people on the call, as well as in the conversations that have been going on online, have been wondering who actually participated in the public participation of putting the bill together, and who else has sort of augmented the thinking by Robotics Society in putting the bill together.
Oh, thank you so much, Elizabeth. As much I can say, Dr. Gendi actually has summarized what the intention was. The intention was to have a professional body for practitioners. And believe me, the idea, I got it from ChatGPT, because I just querying, I was using an example of the Raw Start of Kenya. If you look at the Raw Start of Kenya, it was done by an act of parliament, that is 1948. And as you can see, the government cannot do any jurisprudence on anything raw, like if you see at Judicial Service Commission, you can see that the Raw Start of Kenya is involved. And if you have to start with a name like Kenya, it must be in an act of parliament. That is the right thing. Dr. Gendi can help us on that area. So what he has summed up is that this is a practitioner. There's nothing to do with much that is curbing innovation or anything. It's like what lawyers do, doctors, engineers. It does not stop them from their growth. Even like now, we have even media having their ethical framework. It does not stop the journalists from working in. So the first and paramount thing is that this is a professional body, which actually will even advocate for the best practices. Like what he has said, we can do even self-regulation, of course, but at certain parameters. Because you see, this is understood. You cannot say that the government will not come in. Like what Dr. Gendi has told us, that the government is not even working. That I was even saying that as soon as possible, we'll be having even an exact order from the president implementing. So as was to be involved. And as you can see, most of us were like, as much we are working together, we have not come together as industry. AI has done an exemplary job. Robotics start by coming in, but we are not the only one practitioners doing AI. We have groups of people doing AI. Like now, when we went to Parliament, we had the Royals App Kenya, they gave up their presentation. We had the NCBA Bank, they're doing, they had their presentation. We have Tech Kids, you have STEM Impact. All these groups, we are doing things as much we are doing, but we're doing things differently. The idea was, how suppose we come together? Even if you do some, if you come together the way as Dr. Ogendi said, we can even do self-regulation. We can give this as submission. If the government comes up with something, can come up with a mission. And even the bill itself, even the name, let me just be clear, even the name itself for the Kenya Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Bill, it was a suggestion from ChatGPT. Even the bill drafting it, because of course I'm not a lawyer by profession, and it was I have done a petition before. I done a petition to the Senate, and it was done well for chess and education. That was the year last year 2021. That was perfect. I knew, but I was helped also by the researchers in the parliament. So it's not something so easy. As Dr. Gendi can tell you, I don't have a legal background. So I was helped by some researchers in the parliament, and I did the petition, the bill, of course, which is called, is under Article 119. Because anybody inside can allow for even repeal, amend. So I took both to the Senate and the National Assembly. So the Senate started, they called us for the same. So I don't know, for the National Assembly, there's not been progress, but I did the same there. So me, I had no any intention whatsoever to give, to bring regulations which is cabin. The issue was, how do you have a professional body? We need funding. We need innovations. Like now, if you look at what the US did after the executive order from Biden yesterday, the US has said that it's going to form AI institute. So you see, like as superpower like US is still running something from here. So they say they're going back to form an AI institute. So I'm not saying that it's necessary it must be Kenya Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Society. You can have something like AI institute in Kenya, or the way you have framed the bill, which I like the name, Robotics and Artificial Intelligence bill. That's perfect. So under that bill, for example, proposal, do you have a professional body? Because all these professions have their professional body. I have robotics cert. I'm not saying that it's as much as the registrar. Artificial intelligence cert of Kenya from Alfred is also registered. But we need something like, even if the government wants to make a move, like in this particular generative AI, we should be consulted. So you see, part of our work is robbing. Of course, we have to do robbing, and we have to do advocacy, and we have to advocate, and so we have to do promotion. So we have no any intention of severing nothing. The idea is, if we have the wider application of the bill, are we going to have our professional body? So when we can do self-regulation, when we have challenges, we need innovations, we need funds, and the other things. That was the idea. Thank you.
It's quite interesting, Fred, that you've really put it very succinctly that the bill from Robotics Society of Kenya perspective was to create an institution that sort of self-regulates the professionals within the sector. But when one reads through the bill, unless I am mistaken, I haven't come across the specific, the specific qualifications that would qualify one to say, I am a robotics. The bill reads in a very general term. Is it that anyone who works with robotics, anyone who works in artificial intelligence, irrespective of where on that particular value chain and production chain they can be members of the bill? Is that the thinking? Yes, and that. Thank you so much for that observation. Actually, it was challenged by the lawyers. They said, if it's the case for them, they proposed, because it's the assent in the Senate, it was recorded. They said that we separate. We have a robotics society and artificial intelligence. That is one. Number two, about the professionalism. They said that it's not so simple that somebody is going to such an institution could be the way you have just put it. But we see from experience, from technology, we look at people like Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and even the initial ICT bill. Because remember when we had the ICT Act, which was the president didn't assent. So the idea was, like, we didn't want to limit to say that somebody who is supposed to maybe to practice should be having this kind of qualification. We said we can have somebody, an innovator. We have people here in Kenya. If you Google, you can see people build robots as much as they don't have that knowledge of maybe of their algorithm, but they have learned something. So we didn't want to stifle somebody. If that was the case, then you could not have people like Bill Gates. You could not have people like Zuckerberg. We have so many people in tech who have not done so much, but or even if they went, they dropped. Even if you look at even the founder of OpenAI. He dropped out of university. He didn't complete.
So that was the idea, that we don't have, anybody, any practitioner who feels that is working in robotics or AI ecosystem and has all the qualities, you should not stay for that person, not marry, for example, not to wear that institution. But I'm not saying that thing is perfect. And that's why I'm saying we had a discourse. We're having a working group in the Senate. We also, maybe because the Senate can work separate and the National Assembly. The Senate has to work because AI and robotics should connect with the county. If you touch anything county government, then you should start the Senate. So this is a like I can say multi-party team. You cannot only say that it's the National Assembly which is going to work on this bill. It's starting the counties. If it's starting the counties, then you go to the Senate. But I know if it's in the Senate, then it must come to the National Assembly, because the appropriation of the budget is vested in the National Assembly. So this is a bill which is free the way, and we are saying that we need constructive criticism and adding a value. So, for example, you have changed the name. Me, I appreciate. I would go even for the name. The name you have put here today, that is the right name. For example, you can forget about this kind of robotics. That's the thing. And then the issue of self-regulation is there. And how are we going to adhere to this one? Funding and other areas. That is the idea. So I'm not saying that this was perfect. I was telling you, so hard. Dr. Gendi can tell you, just coming up with a bill on your own, and there's challenges, and you don't have a legal background, of course, it's a big thing. So I'm not saying that this is a masterpiece. No, just poke holes. Yeah. Get the thing. Say this is not this supposed to be. This was like, if you were in that debate, and actually even I invited Alfred. It wasn't that he was occupied. He was out of the country. You can converse that I invited him. I told him, come to the Senate, give your point, give your view. He said he was busy. He had his surgery, and I understood. I contacted Safaricom. As Microsoft agreed they were coming. So this was a multi-stakeholder. I didn't say I was just putting it as a robotics thing, because this industry is big. Yeah, that is it. Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth.
You've invited criticism and value addition. So I to ask. Sorry.
Rosemary, we can't hear you clearly.
Can't hear you.
I don't know if it's only on my hand. Hello?
I can't hear.
Yeah, there we are. Okay. I'm inviting Alfred when we started, he said he had a couple of reservations. I'd like to invite him to just respond to some of the things you've said. And he said he went through the bill extensively. Alfred, we would love to hear your perspective on some of the key clauses in the bill and the structure that Fred has just outlined for us.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. So first of all, as I start, I'd like to state my mindset has always been we live in an open ecosystem, an open industry technology ecosystem, and that means anyone can come in, come up with a bill. Anyone can come in, open a community. So no one is being stopped to come up with a body to promote AI. There are other existing tech communities, initiatives, institutions in the country that are promoting AI apart from AI Kenya. So yes, Fred had prepared this bill and he invited me, but although at that time I was out of the country, I had not looked extensively at the bill. Therefore, I was not able to comment at that time. But the other day I looked at it extensively and I could see that most of the areas highlighted in the bill were not in the best interest of the AI industry here in Kenya, in my opinion. So just allow me to highlight. I'll go through them very quickly, and then in case you need a clarification, I can be able to clarify that. So I'll start with the good things about the bill. So yes, it aims to come up with a society that aims to promote artificial intelligence and robotics in the country, that's a good thing. There's the aspect of regulating the AI industry in Kenya. And when you look deeply at the aspect of regulating, it's not very clear in terms of, there's ambiguity in terms of what artificial intelligence especially is. It has not been defined extensively. You've not provided examples on the matters of who an AI practitioner is. That is also still very vague and very weak. It does not give examples. It does not tell us who an AI practitioner is. Fred, you mentioned that you came up with this bill after querying a few things on ChatGPT. Does that make you an AI practitioner according to what you're suggesting? And does that mean you will need to have a license in order to, use something as a generative AI platform like ChatGPT to provide services to the public? There's also a barrier to entry for small innovators in the country. Personally, my journey into AI started in university when I was part of a program by Intel that was aiming to train students and developers on how to get started in artificial intelligence, and those events were free. Alongside that, after I finished the work with Intel, I still saw a very big gap in terms of knowledge, bringing together different people who could discuss AI and grow together.
Sorry, the issue of our cost element. So the bill is suggesting and hinting that we should start that the society will start asking for licensing and registration fees for those who want to participate in the AI industry, and that will cut out so many people, especially the young people in Kenya who are trying to enter this particular space. There's also overregulation. I've already covered overregulation. There's a high lack of focus on education and skill development. So yes, it mentions the promotion of education, but it does not give specifics on how that will come in. There's also insufficient emphasis on ethical considerations, as different practitioners will be working in AI. How is the society aiming to tackle aspect of ethics and bias, and making sure that the different practitioners are practicing responsible artificial intelligence. So those are the brief comments that I just wanted to highlight, and make it clear that if these particular elements are not changed, or if it is not properly adjusted, then we won't have the support of majority of the tech ecosystem in the country. We have different communities that will have come up, and we've been watching actively. If I refer to the ICT bill that was proposed about a year ago, that was killed because the tech community and working together with the legal community were able to come together and highlight that this is not something that is working for the ecosystem. This is something that will work against the ecosystem. So the feedback is, go back to the drawing table, do as much consultation as possible, and try to showcase the work that has been done previously, that showcase the capacity you have to promote and regulate such a space, because you can't regulate something that you don't properly understand, something that is changing so rapidly on a day-to-day basis. It's very hard to keep up. You can try and regulate the outcomes of how the technology is being used, but the actual practice of how the technology is created and so on is very, very hard to regulate. So it's better to start with foundational technology, IT practice, before you can even come to a specific topic or area like AI. So those are my brief comments for now.
Those are some very extensive comments, Alfred. I do wonder, Dr. Ogendi, when you read through the bill, what are some of the things that jumped to you outside of what Alfred has already sort of expounded on from a purely legal and regulatory perspective?
Yes, so the bill needs a lot of work. It is not very coherent at the moment, but I think Fred has explained that it was a ChatGPT, a generative AI, used that particular platform to come up with this bill, which is a fair attempt, but it needs a lot of work. Number one, even though it is being promoted as being self-regulation of the practitioners, we also see the role of government under Section 20. And some of the things that the bill proposes is the government to come up with a National Robotics and AI Commission, Research and Development Center, and then AI Education and Training Program. So it's just one article, and it has quite a number of things that the government can do. So it is almost a hybrid bill where the practitioners are trying to regulate themselves, but they also want the government to take over certain functions. So I can already see the AI Commission conflicting with this body, which is trying to come up with standards, ethical guidance, and standards for the profession. Because once you do that, then what is the role of the commission in this regard? Then another thing that I observed is that in terms of the code of practice and the standards applicable, it is not clear how these two relate, and whether these standards are going to be universal to the entire AI sector, because like Alfred has said, AI is very amorphous. Nobody knows what it is in the first place and what it is not. And he asked a question whether if I use ChatGPT, I am a practitioner. So that is a very important question to consider. So who exactly are you targeting? And in terms of the general drafting, there could be areas which can be improved. But of course, like Fred said, this is a process which is ongoing and different people are already engaging. Whether or not you can have robotics and AI in the same bill, that would be a very ambitious bill, and we might not be able to cover everything. Robotics is highly technical, and AI is also another very technical sector. So I agree with the lawyers' proposal that perhaps you are chewing too much and you might be able to choke. In terms of the qualifications of those who can be there, I saw you said secondary, anybody in secondary. So there could be merits to that, but I don't know how a practitioner or a professional body will accept minimum education, like basic education ends in primary and secondary. So do you need something extra, like maybe perhaps a certificate in a relevant field, as opposed to just anybody with a secondary school certificate? So those are some of the areas that I think can be improved. But like I said, regulation of AI is not just about the technical things, it's also about government policy. I know the government policy is to promote digital competitiveness. So perhaps you need to think through that and ask yourself, how do you achieve digital competitiveness? And I think what Alfred is saying is that if you put in place licensing and standards, then you'll be licensing and registration fees, then perhaps you'll be locking out a big sector from participating in the field. So is that supporting government policy, or is it something that you need to rethink about and see how to go about it? There are ideas that have been there before. But there is also the idea of a regulatory sandbox or innovation hubs and all these kind of things that you can also explore in your bill, so that you're able to see how best you can promote the sector. So those are my initial comments.
Thank you, Paul, for that. And there's something that Alfred said earlier in regards to education, that the bill doesn't have, is not providing for a space within which education can be used as a tool to facilitate innovation in this. And being that you're in academia, what are some of the ways that you think, outside of the formal education structure, that institutions such as yours or RIARA or any other higher education, tertiary education institutions could plug into this sector to augment sort of the benefits that the sector offers society?
Yeah, that is already happening. And I think Alfred said that he was participating in an Intel program, which was when he was in the university. So those kind of opportunities being offered to students is very important. I know we have a computer science department, which does a number of projects in this sector. Bottom line, artificial intelligence will be everywhere. Even in law now, we are coming in on board. We are now trying to see how to regulate, because we understand that artificial intelligence is beneficial. That is okay. Nobody has a problem with that. But what we are concerned more about is the risk. Okay. In UK or Europe, they have classification of risk, low risk, high risk, and all those kind of things. And they give you different ways of regulation, depending on the level of risk that is involved. So the risk is usually, that is an approach you can take to regulate by looking at the risks and all that. Promotion can involve also working with the curriculums that are in universities. And for instance, in University of Nairobi, proposed that we integrate AI in all our law syllabus, because it is going to be the fourth industrial revolution. So we need to have it very clear how taught employment law relates to AI, how medical law relates to, and all these other sectors, consumer protection, and even science, technology, and innovation, because there's a research component in that act. It's interesting that the ICT bill, I got this from Alfred, was shot down because it was found to be counterproductive. So we can be able to learn from that experience and see what are those things that are not helping and remove them from this bill beforehand. So I think the role of educational institution is to just provide what you are now doing, a platform to discuss ideas and conduct further research in terms of those ideas and refining them to final products. So this is a very good opportunity for us to engage in. Thank you.
Thank you. Alfred, I think I want to look back to two statements that you made that might seem on face value contradictory, but I'm sure that there's a specific link that you'd be able to illuminate. You have a very firm stand around over-regulation of the sector, and you've been in the industry for close to a decade now. And I'm wondering whether there are certain aspects that you've come across as a practitioner in the space, aspects and challenges and gaps that you perhaps might think that there is a role for regulation outside of obviously the comments that you've already made around over-regulation and the licensing and the permits aspect of it. Are there any situations where regulation or self-regulation of the sector could come in to solve some challenges, and what does that look like? What are some of those challenges, and what do they look like in terms of finding a sustainable solution?
Thank you for that question. So how I look at regulation, it's on a general wide spectrum in terms of technology. So AI is just one of the different technologies that form part of that. So a good regulation to protect the public and anyone who is interacting with technology should have very strong foundations from how technology is created, how that technology is distributed, and how that technology is used by anyone interacting with it. So in terms of protecting the public, we have clear issues such as privacy. So for example, surveillance, right? So if a company has come up with an artificial intelligence system that is able to, as long as it is fed to a camera stream and a database of that has the different citizens in a country, it is able to track and say where you are at any particular time. So in this case, regulation should come in and outline the acceptable areas where such a technology can be used, either in a closed loop system or in an open loop system. So yes, we need to regulate how technology is being used, but it needs to be very specific and also guided by the foundation elements of what I've mentioned in terms of how the technology is created, how the technology is distributed, and how the technology is used. If we do that, then it's very easy to cover all the emerging tech that are continuously coming up, whether it is AI, whether it is Web3, and so on. However, if we say that you want to regulate a specific area like AI, yet you don't have a backdrop or a foundational regulation that covers technology, then you're just dumping the cart, and you'll experience so many challenges in implementing and enforcing that regulation. So yes, we should have regulation, but it should be well thought out and thoroughly done.
Thank you for that. Fred, I do wonder, I know you've said before that your thinking and the process of putting the law together was that you interacted with the challenges that you were facing as a person in the sector, and you then went to ChatGPT to put it together. I do wonder, did you look at any other jurisdictions that have something similar in terms of regulation of the sector, and what did you find? Is Fred still here? Okay, perhaps while we find him, Paul, do you want to take that question in terms of best practice sort of review in terms of regulation of the sector of an AI robotics sector? Have you come across that?
Yes, without giving specifics, there are several countries which are already having a legislation in place. China is one of them. It has a very expansive regulatory framework, which essentially aims at leapfrogging and having China to be the next leader, economically speaking. So they view AI as that tool or vehicle that will help them overtake US in terms of being a global economic leader. So you find a lot of space being given to AI practitioners to use that term to test out their products or services using and develop the AI sector in a manner that promotes economic development. Of course, there is also control of what can be done in certain sectors, and that is not unique to AI sector alone, but all sectors of the Chinese economy. So that is number one. In the EU, we see a more focus on ethics, human rights, and safety. Okay. So it is risk-based. What are the risks that you almost going to encounter when introducing this new technology, and how do you mitigate? So there's that focus, and depending on how that pans out, they will be able to allow innovation to prosper, but they focus on, I think, what Alfred calls the outcome. For US, it was more laissez-faire, let us leave the sector to develop on its own. But in the recent past, there have been many other states in the US which are interested in coming up with specific legislation focusing on specific aspects of AI. The most recent attempt was by the executive order of the president. So we are seeing a trajectory towards the federal government playing a bigger role in this particular sector. So those are there are other countries like Brazil, India, who have been debating on this. But in Africa, we don't have much. In fact, what we've had in Africa are studies. I think there was one in Kenya on digital economy and all these kind of things, chaired by Professor or Dr. Ndemo, Bitangi Ndemo. And I've been hearing about a strategy. Many people have been talking about AI strategy in different countries. And now, only recently, I heard our president talking about an AI legislation. So Kenya is one of the countries which are leading in that sector to try and come up with a legislation. So this is not a futile exercise. The lessons we learn from here can be used in that process. Thank you.
Thank you for that very helpful overview of what's happening across the globe. And from what you said, I can see Kenya having a really unique opportunity to position itself as a leader in this particular sector, in terms of creating the pathway for showing countries how we can strike the balance that Alfred is talking about. Alfred, you've really you've given us a very good outline of the issues surrounding regulation and how to straddle between self-regulation, over-regulation, issues that consumers might face, and how a law might help consumers to protect themselves. I do wonder whether you might speak a little bit to the conversation around regulation and the stifling of innovation. And I think you made this comment at the beginning of the webinar, that your thoughts are that this bill has a higher likelihood of stifling innovation than actually providing sustainable regulation of the sector. What are some of the ways that law specifically can be used to foster innovation, setting clear guidelines for ethics in the sector, but at the same time not falling into the trap of a regulation that, like you're talking about, and stifling innovation?
Thank you for that question. So the first thing in reference to the proposed bill is a requirement of fees, registration fees, to be part of the society, so that qualifies you as a practitioner and you are now able to operate freely in the market. So the first thing, the bill does not indicate how much these fees are. There's no indication of a range or anything. So it leaves it open to imagination in terms of perhaps how little or how much it could be to be a part of this society. So what that does is it puts in the mind of an innovator such that before, as an innovator is coming up with an idea of what they want to work on, whichever problem they want to disrupt, they have to think about, how will I launch this solution in the market and make it accessible to the public? So now if we have a society that is saying for you to do that and succeed in the market, you need to first of all be a member with us and be able to pay this fee. It sort of hinders their thought process in terms of the barrier to entry in such a market has now been put up. And one of the interesting things about the AI industry is, and the current day and age we live in, is young people are coming out aggressively and are succeeding very much in coming up with technology startups and innovations around AI. So you have individuals who are less than 30 years old, or even 25, or even 18, less than 18 years old, coming up with companies that are worth millions of dollars, and some are even unicorns. So you can imagine if you have a law in place and you're telling this young innovator that for you to launch your successful AI prototype and put it out in the market, you need to have paid a fee, then that is hindering whatever work that they'll be trying to do. In terms of how regulation can now support innovation, I think Paul had already mentioned the subject of matters like having a sandbox, a space where these innovators can go to a body that is recognized by the government that guides this. I don't want to call them practitioners in this case. Anyone who has come up with an idea and they want to scale it and offer it to the general public, and it's specifically around AI, to help the innovator to follow particular guidelines to make sure that whatever solution that they're offering has ethics and is responsible in that case, and scale and grow in the right manner as it is expected. Another thing would be one of the cornerstones of success in AI is research. So you cannot succeed as a country or as an ecosystem if you want to be a leader in this particular area. Then we need to heavily invest in research, and this can be encouraged by the government in terms of the different big institutions and organizations in the country that are making billions of dollars, such that they're given incentives so that if they're setting a certain budget intentionally for it to grow research around the areas such as AI, then they're given benefits, whether it is tax credits and things like that. I believe a tax expert can provide more insight into that. So those are some of the things that we were hoping to see in this particular bill in terms of fostering innovation.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, Alfred, and ask. You've used the word practitioner quite a bit in your discourse. Is it possible to define who a practitioner is? And I'm thinking, and perhaps it's comparing, oranges and apples, but if this bill is borrowing from other sectors, as Fred is talking about, and seeking to regulate those sectors, to provide a mechanism for self-regulation for the AI and robotics sector. If we borrow from law, there's the difference between an advocate and a lawyer, and we know what those terms mean. We know what the term magistrate and judge and all of these other things mean. If we borrow from the medical field, we know who a doctor is, who a consulting doctor is, who a registered nurse is, who, that sort of definition. Is it translatable to this sector? Is such a taxonomical sort of structure translatable to the sector, or should we not actually even give any thought or importance to who is an AI practitioner and who is a robotics practitioner?
Yeah, thank you for that. So what I would say, first of all, there's a report that was published last year. It's called the AI Practitioners Guide, that was published by GIZ, Strathmore, and a couple of other organizations, including Kenya. I was part of one influence that particular publication And what we aimed to do was try and look at who an AI practitioner is, what's the wide spectrum that touches that, and what can practitioners do in order to get into the space of AI? What are the challenges in terms of becoming a practitioner and so on? So you could try, I'd encourage the audience to try and look at that particular report to better understand that subject. On the question of whether we need to have, like what you're saying, a taxonomy framework in terms of what practitioner is, similar to what we have in law and other fields like medicine. I believe it's something that is a work in progress. The only challenge we have is technologies are very wide fields that cuts across, and a practitioner in this case could be anyone who is contributing to an input that will generate the output of this technology. So if I take the example of an AI application that is going to scan different people's faces and be able to distinguish this is Elizabeth and this is Paul. For you to create that system, you need to collect data to train a system that this person is a female and this person has these features, therefore this person is not this person. So you have the aspect of someone who is collecting the data, someone who is cleaning the data, someone who is writing the software to sort of process all this particular data. And then you have the main person who is now creating the system that determines this is male, this is female, this is Paul, this is Elizabeth. And then you have another party that's now involved in this and making sure that solution is out in the market. So if you look at that particular example, we could treat all these different people as practitioners in the AI industry, but it is very specific that whatever that they're trying to build has an AI outcome. So those are some of the challenges that now come in terms of defining what practitioner is. But the placeholder definition right now is anyone who is involved in the process of creating and influencing the outcome of an AI product or service. So therefore, coming up with a practitioner sort of regulation determining who is a practitioner and who is not. The knowledge required to create, well, what the market has shown us is the knowledge required to create these particular technologies has been highly democratized. And that makes it very easy for a young person now to come in and be able to create a technology and be able to put it out in the market. The barrier to entry in the industry has gone down. So even though big companies like Google, Microsoft, LinkedIn, and so on, and even some companies in Kenya, removing the requirement for you to have, let's say, a bachelor's degree for you to be able to be employable in a certain field. So the market is constantly evolving. So unless we all come together and create a foundational guide that does not leave anyone out and does not stifle an activity that someone is trying to come up with that will benefit the ecosystem. So there lies the challenge. And that is what I believe different bodies are trying to work towards until we have a proper answer and come up with a way of defining and a way of licensing this particular industry. So it's still a work in progress. However, what is clear is what the industry is saying is whatever you come up with, it really has to be well thought out. Otherwise, if it has too many loopholes, then it will be shut down, and then you need to go back to the drawing book.
Thank you so much for that. I want to open up the floor for any comments or questions from the participants on the webinar. So anyone, if you before we close, ideally, because we only have now about 9 minutes to 1:45, where we promised we would end at 1:45. Do we have any comments or questions?
Good afternoon.
Okay, there you go, Duncan. Yeah. Anyone else would like to speak after Duncan, just raise your hand so that we can have a proper queue. Go ahead, Duncan. Sorry, I think we may have lost Duncan. Do we have or ask a question to our panelists? And augment the conversation from all of the stuff that we've been talking about. I see a comment from the chat from Bastian. Bastian, do you want to unmute yourself and just
So as Bastian is unmuting himself, I would want Liz and anyone else to comment and just give a very clear sort of summary in terms of where the bill is right now and how different people can participate, whether they're promoting it or they're against it. Or Fred, in that case.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth and Alfred. What we did, because I said when you submitted the bill, it was put on both the National Assembly and the Senate. So the Senate took it first, and as per the deliberations, they have a working committee, and they said they want to take stakeholders. So, for example, you are one of the stakeholders, and the academia has come in now. UN is it, RIARA is. So I don't know how the scope is, but they took our contacts, and they said they want to refer to us. So actually, it is even is in drafting stage. That's what we called it, proposal and draft. You have not gone even. It has not even the committee, but the committee said they are going to, because you cannot, as an individual, cannot present a bill in the parliament, either a committee or a member of parliament. That's the roles of the parliament committee. So the committee of the Senate Standing Committee of ICT says they want to take over, and they will get stakeholders. So I have the contacts. If you have your input, I can give you through. You can talk and give your input on what is it. But I know they want to call us again. So if they call us again, I will notify. Me, I had no problem with the and that is good also, because I also wanted to add something on what we had talked about data, because there's a research which has been done. Because you look at ChatGPT was trained by using the internet, and most websites are using the English language. So some researchers did try to use the Zulu language, and they were able to jailbreak the ChatGPT. The reason why I was saying that, as much we say that we won't do regression. So if, for example, you're using Swahili, you see like what Mozilla is working on some hackathons on people working on the Swahili language. So if you look at, you can search. ChatGPT was able to be jailbreaked by using Zulu language. So those safety safeguards which were put in ChatGPT, it's easier because it's trained in most of the language. It's in English. So if we say that the innovators who are coming in, there's no problem with that, because if at the issue of regulatory, I saw it's like even I didn't. The regulatory was actually the issue of even membership. You even put it for like even membership. You can even put that word the regulatory, remove it, that fee. You can even remove it and put that one. So the data we are creating in and the platforms we are using, the algorithm like Chat. Kenya has not invented. If you look at the generative AI, so we are still using what the Silicon Valley has done, and there's bias. You talked about bias, which is also true. So the data we are getting in, where is the data coming in from? Which safety mechanisms have we put? Because you have not put such platform. Like for example, I know that is a challenge on your side. You should come, maybe can AI Kenya come up with something like ChatGPT? Because I saw even some university like Stanford is coming with a similar thing like generative AI. So which us we can use it for, we training using our Kenyan population and data. Because what we are using now, and as much we are saying that we want the youngsters come in, we are using still the Western thing. We are using the Silicon platforms. We are not, if it's Facebook, for example, they put the Meta, they put the one, the Rama, for the open source. Of course, somebody was arguing even in open source. It's not really open source as much, because they are using the Facebook data to train. It's not so much as much. There's something which I didn't. I don't know much in that article jargons, but just technical perspectives. So the bill is open, and Dr. Ogendi also talked about the National Assembly approach. So I don't know what you can say on that, but me I said on the part of the Senate. But I also sent the same bill is in the National Assembly. So Dr. Gendi maybe can put up something because he talked about National Assembly. Thank you.
Maybe as a point of clarification, Fred, and thank you so much for that really detailed sort of comment and where the bill is. When you say that the bill is at the Senate, what exactly, because has it been tabled? Has it, from what I'm understanding from what you've said, and just maybe for the sake of clarity, you're saying that you approached the committee at the ICT committee at Senate, and they are looking at the bill. So it has not been introduced at all to Senate, to the floor of the House. Is that true?
Yes, exactly. That's why I was saying that there's a procedure. When you give a submission of a petition or a bill, it has to pass through, even if it was go to the speaker. It first of all, it has to go to the committee. I think Dr. Gendi can explain that. Then from there, they have to check the stakeholders. So anybody who's mentioned, like for example in AI and robotics, it will be called. If you're a stakeholder, it actually be like a public forum. Like when we did last time, we did with just petition, the Minister of Education was called, the KICD, the TSC, anybody who was involved in education was called. So like now we are talking about the research, and if Alfred has talked about education, we have given a role. In that bit, there's a role for research and innovation. And actually, even the godfathers of AI, they have suggested that a government or like these big tech companies should use a third of their funds to fund innovation and research, because these are emerging tech, which is like Alfred what has said. You can have maybe another thing tomorrow. Like now, we after ChatGPT-4, maybe you're waiting for another thing next year. So the things Google, they're coming also with the Gemini project. Don't know what they're coming. So it's fast and furious. What is important is, but in essence, the bill has not gone in even, is on drafting stage, and all the stakeholders will be called. Your input will be considered. So the most important thing is that it's the network. If they call out, for example, on the Senate, it's my duty to give all the contacts, and I always do that. There's no tech company or big or maybe big tech who's in AI or robotics I didn't call, or I didn't try to see and communicate. So that is the part of the Senate, because you should understand that when the bills are done, if you touch the county, the Senate is involved. If you touch, but the Senate does not appropriate, does not the one which give budget. For example, if the
so what I think, just to add on that.
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, you can go on.
Yeah.
So I think it's a legislative proposal. It's a legislative proposal which is being considered at the Senate. Of course, there is interest in the National Assembly as well. For the simple reason that this is it's a fourth industrial revolution we are talking about. Just the way you think about steam engine, electricity, and ICT, okay, internet. So we are talking about something will fundamentally disrupt the way we know our economy to be. So this is a very important area, and it has received a lot of attention. So that can be another approach. So what has been, I think from what I hear from Fred, is that it is a legislative proposal which is going to be developed by the ICT committee further before it is ready. And we have agreed that the version we have now needs a lot of work. And I think we need more seminar to be able to bring it up to speed. As a personal opinion, I think because AI is a bit amorphous, this is the most pragmatic approach to take. It is pragmatic because you are not even looking at AI as a technology. You're just looking at who are in the sector, the practitioners, so to speak. Yeah? If you're able to clearly define these people, to clearly know who they are, and then put them in a particular context, let's say a society or whatever it is,
We lost Paul. Did we lose Paul?
Are you able to?
Yes, now we can hear you. Yeah, just conclude the statement that you're making.
Yeah, so the point I was making is that the piecemeal approach could work because like Alfred says, this sector is very very new and you don't want to disrupt it and put barriers in place. But also, you want to understand it. One way to understand the sector is to know who is a practitioner and where can I find them. And even if you remove all the registration and other barriers that have been discussed, there's some value in that. So you can also include issues to do with continuous professional development, just to start creating knowledge, like a conference or something, those kind of things in the country that can promote this sector at a lower level. Even as we think about the bigger AI legislation, this can be the wake-up call for government to do more in this sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for those closing remarks. And I'll just read the comment that I've received on the chat and give Alfred the opportunity to give his closing comments. We've heard from Fred and we've heard from Paul. Bastian is saying that he agrees with Alfred that we do not need regulation right now. What we need to do is to grow the local AI sector by all means possible. And when regulation becomes necessary, then what's needed is a regulation of systems and uses as opposed to a regulation of people. And especially that will help in preventing gatekeeping and rent seeking. Thank you, Bastian, for that input. Alfred, I'll give you maybe 15 seconds to give your closing remarks, and then we can wind up the webinar.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for organizing the discussion. The first comment I'd like to make is maybe we could hear about the next opportunity for public participation in the bill so that we are able to actively participate and give our thoughts and feedback on this bill. So Fred, I've already shared a few comments in the Google Doc version of the bill that you had shared. I've seen that some edits have been made. Initially, there was a mention of the cotton industry in the bill, but I think that has been edited, but I'm still seeing a mention of the Agriculture Act. So you should really check on that. If you're creating a bill for the ICT industry, it's only fair that we use a comparison of the digital industry. I mean, there are so many examples that could be used as reference and not something from the agriculture industry. The next thing, my closing remarks would be the ecosystem is open. Anyone can create, anyone can innovate, anyone can push an agenda. But each one of us has to be very proactive and intentional and not sit in the background when we are seeing different regulations coming in place that will effectively affect the outcomes of the different industries that we are trying to disrupt. So let's be more proactive. Let's give more feedback to whichever work anyone is doing, and let's keep growing and building the ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Alfred, to Paul, and to Fred for giving your time and minds to review this bill and to talk about it. And thank you for Fred also, especially for finding the challenge and the gap in the market and trying to find solutions to it. And thank you for your willingness to ask other people to sort of augment and add on and add value to the process. So what we will do once we hear back from Fred, we'll email all of you and let you know when the next round of public participation will look like, and we'll also distribute the Word document, the actual bill, as well as a copy of this recording, just so that you can listen and distribute it to your networks as well. I think the more people that we have in the conversation, the better the outcome at the end of the day. So thank you also for making the time to come in and listen to the webinar and participate, and have a very good day ahead. Look out for emails from Riara Center for Legal Innovation on any other upcoming webinars on emerging areas of law as well. Asanteni sana, and have a very good evening and afternoon and the rest of the week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Goodbye. Thank you.